Have you ever wondered about the very first mistake? A single choice that changed the entire course of human history. Today we read diving deep into one of the most foundational stories ever told, the fall of man. The first temptation and the exit from the Garden of Eden. It all began in a perfect place. The Garden of Eden. God had created the first man, Adam, and the first woman, Eve. They lived in harmony with nature and in a close relationship with their Creator. God gave them everything they could possibly need, with just one rule. He told them, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." It was a simple test of trust and obedience. For a time, everything was perfect. Adam and Eve enjoyed the beauty of Eden, naming the animals and tending to the garden. They walked with God in the cool of the day. There was no shame, no fear, no sadness. It was paradise. But then, something deceptive slithered into this perfect world. He didn't start with a direct command, but with a subtle, doubt-inducing question. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? Eve corrected him, explaining they could eat from the trees, just not the one in the middle of the garden, or they would die. This is where the serpent laid his trap. "You will not certainly die," he hissed. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Think about that temptation. It wasn't just about a piece of fruit. It was the promise of power, of wisdom, of being like God. The serpent twisted God's words, making his protective boundary seem like a selfish restriction. He planted a seed of distrust in Eve's heart, making her question God's goodness and his motives. Eve looked at the tree. The fruit now seemed good for food and pleasing to the eye. And that desire to be wise was so strong. The temptation was overwhelming. So, she took some of the fruit and ate it. The choice was made, but it didn't stop there. She then gave some to her husband, Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. He wasn't deceived in the same way, but he chose to follow Eve instead of obeying God. In that moment, everything changed. Their eyes were opened, but not in the way they expected. The first thing they felt was not power, but shame. They realized they were naked and quickly sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. The beautiful innocence they once had was shattered. When they heard the sound of God walking in the garden, they did something they had never done before. They hid. The close relationship they shared with their Creator was now broken by fear and guilt. God called out, "Where are you?" He already knew, of course, but he was giving them a chance to confess. Adam blamed Eve, saying, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Then Eve blamed the serpent. No one took responsibility. The consequences were swift and profound. The serpent was cursed. Eve was told she would have great pain in childbirth and that her desire would be for her husband and he would rule over her. Adam was told the ground was now cursed because of him. He would have to work it painfully for food, and eventually his body would return to the dust from which it came. The most heartbreaking consequence was their expulsion from Eden. God said that man must not be allowed to reach out and also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever in this fallen state. So he banished them from the garden. He placed mighty cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. Paradise was lost. This single act of disobedience introduced sin, suffering, and death into the world. It created a separation between humanity and God. But even in this dark moment, there was a glimmer of hope. God's curse on the serpent included a promise that one of Eve's offspring would one day crush the serpent's head. For Christians, this is the very first prophecy of Jesus, the Savior, who would come to reconcile humanity back to God. The story of the fall is more than just an ancient tale. It teaches us about the nature of temptation, the consequences of our choices, and our deep need for redemption. It's the beginning of a much larger story that unfolds throughout the entire Bible, a story of how God works to bring his lost children back home. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into timeless stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.